Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to MAR Talks on our series on revolutionary mothering. I am Carrie Cavers, founder of Moms Against Racism Canada. And in the spirit of truth and reconciliation, I would like to acknowledge the truth of where I call home. I'm living on the unceded ancestral territory of the Lekwungen speaking peoples of the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations, now known as Victoria, BC. And I'm here as an uninvited guest, and I'm grateful for the grace that has been extended to me by the Indigenous peoples of this land so that I may live, work, and raise my children here and also get to enjoy this beautiful area of the world. And in the spirit of reconciliation, our efforts in MAR are working to dismantle racism and support Indigenous sovereignty. And I hope that you will all join us in our efforts. And today we take a look at revolutionary mothering from another lens, fashion and body positivity and fostering self-love. Our guest today is Chantal Carter, founder of Love Nudes. Chantal is an entrepreneur who has worked in the fashion industry for over 20 years as a stylist, image consultant, and magazine style director. Chantal's passion to uplift women of color through fashion caused her to develop a diverse skin tone intimates line called Love Nudes. This brand is more than just fashion. It's a social movement connecting women and celebrating the beauty of difference. She believes apparel and cosmetics should be accessible to all in a manner that allows them to celebrate their skin tone and personal style. Hi, Chantal. Thank you for sharing
Hello.
your time with me today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for asking me. This is really great. Thank you.
You're welcome. So for this series, we're asking each of our revolutionary mothers the same 3 questions. So if you're ready, I will jump right in.
Yes, I am ready. And wait, before you start, I want to acknowledge how you acknowledge the First Nations land. I love that. I love that. I love that. And I'm looking forward to learning more about doing that. But right now, I'll just say, I know I'm on land that I wasn't invited on to, like you said, and I appreciate and I acknowledge the Indigenous people that this was their land. And I'm just grateful and happy to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. So for revolutionary mothering,
Yes.
what does revolutionary mothering mean to you?
Okay. Revolutionary mothering means to me, well, when you reached out to me about this, it's the first time I heard it put that way, and I loved it. It resonated with me. And I know it's a book that you talked about, and I feel like I'm happy to speak about it because I feel like that's what I'm doing with my brand, Love Nudes, revolutionary mothering. But intellectually, I've been hearing a lot, or I've been listening to a lot about the patriarchal society that we live in and white supremacy and how they can almost go hand in hand. And it's something that needs to be or must be dismantled. And now when I say patriarchal society, it's how we've all been brainwashed, or kind of the status quo was that everything is done for the male and he's the dominant one. And it's so insidious. It's woven its way into our homes and our society. Even like myself, I grew up with, okay, you got to serve your husband, and putting everybody else in front of you as a woman and not taking care of yourself. And I feel like, where has that gotten us? Where has that gotten all of society but nowhere? Because revolutionary mothering to me means now is taking care of myself as a woman so I can mother my children properly, and not literally mother my friends, but I mean just be there as like the badass queen I am for them, for my business, for other people, for society. Revolutionary mothering is doing the right thing for the greater good, right? And when I say dismantling patriarchal society, I don't mean, oh, no more men. No, we need men. We need each other, but it's just a different way of doing things, a different way of approaching things. It's like, no, we don't have to. Men are always in charge, and for the most part, and they're making the decisions based on, how should I say, men in my society or where I grew up and what I've observed, not allowed to have emotions, okay? They're not allowed to express themselves and not allowed to be sensitive, because that is viewed as girlish or weak. And then I think it's really dangerous, because when these men get into a position of power, there's no emotion attached to it. There's no sensitivity. I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of the times, I think a lot of the terrible things that are happening is because of lack of communication, lack of empathy, lack of feeling, lack of being in touch with emotions and vulnerability. So with revolutionary mothering, I think I already did. I have a grown son, and I was always open to him talking about talk about your feelings. It's okay if you need to cry. We went to his friend's funeral. I was like, it's okay, hon. If you need to cry, we need that release. We all do, even men, so I've mothered him in that way, to show him that it's okay to have emotions, to feel, because I want him to go out in the world and connect with other women, other people, and be empathetic and see someone else's perspective. And I feel like that's the way you start, with having access to your emotions. I know that was a mouthful, right?
No, I totally agree. I think a big part of revolutionary mothering and the change that needs to happen is that increase in emotional intelligence and the connection between humans, and that humanization of the human experience.
Yeah, because it's like, I feel like we're all in a bunch of roles, me man, you woman, or sorry, me woman, you man, but you know what I mean. Or people are stuck in a label and an identity. And when people put a label on somebody, it dehumanizes them. It causes a disconnect. And we are connected, and we have to realize that. And I think we're awakening, not as quickly as I would like to, but I feel like COVID has, I know for me and people I know and I've conversed with, it's really given us time to think and be present and see what's really going on here, or ask questions instead of just being stuck in doing, which is really like, we need that, the time to step back and think and observe and discover that maybe there is something different than the status quo and then what I was doing every day, day after day on a treadmill. Maybe you need to stop and look back and look at my neighbor and find out what's going on with my neighbor, or who I can help as a person, because that's how we're connected.
So then, speaking of that, and I'm going to get you into the doing part, but
Mhm.
in what ways do you practice revolutionary mothering? You touched on it a little bit with parenting and kind of alluded to it with Love and Nudes, but uh, how, in your perspective, how do you practice revolutionary mothering?
Well, how I practice it is I question the status quo. I don't just I'm being aware of different perspectives, different thoughts. I may not agree with them, but I'm aware of them, or I can listen to other people's opinions that may not be the same as mine. But I realize too, I also pick up something from them that I never would have considered or never have thought of. And that brings more understanding. So yeah, that's how I do that. And I ask a lot of questions. I ask questions. I don't just go along with, okay, this is what the math says, and everybody's agreeing with this or that. And my son, he pointed that out. He had a picture of a pile, there was a bunch of silver fish, like a school of fish, and there was one red one that was going the opposite direction. And he said, "Mom, that's you." And I was like, okay, yeah, I know I can be a bit much sometimes, but no, it's okay. That is me, because I'm questioning things. I'm not just going to go along with it, with everything that everybody says all the time. Sometimes, hey, it's great, but sometimes it's like, maybe not.
Well, and I imagine it was that attitude that contributed to you creating a whole new line of intimates.
Yeah. And you see, it was always in me. But the thing is, I was told I was too much. I was too this, too that, and especially as a Black girl when I was growing up, right? My parents they wanted us to succeed. They wanted us to fit in. They came to Canada, they migrated from the Caribbean to Canada, and were told that, oh, it's a better life here. And to some degree it is, but to some degree it's like, no, it was racist when they came, and they had to navigate that. There's so many stories my parents have told me about what they had to deal with and put up with back then. So they were in survival mode as well. So they kind of unknowingly, made me smaller or told me to be smaller. Don't be too this, don't be too that. You can't get the white people mad. You got to get places. Right? So that was the thing. And I was also told that I had to work 3 times as hard because I'm a woman and I'm Black. I can't remember the other reason. Or was it twice as hard? Anyway, yeah.
Feels
So,
like 3 times as hard.
yeah. And it's like, I didn't want to do that. So for a long time, hard work to me meant suffering. I've only recently reprogrammed or am reprogramming that in my mind. I don't like to say I work hard or I have to work hard. I like to say I have to work diligently. I'm working diligently. That's another way for me to look at it that's more comfortable for me, because I was traumatized when I was growing up.
Oh,
I lost my train. What was that? What were you asking me about
we were talking about how you practice revolutionary mothering, but you touched on how your parents experienced racism when they came here, and so I feel like that is a good opportunity to ask you our third question. Uh, Having had obviously the stories of your parents and your own personal experiences, What advice do you have for those wanting to be allies and dismantlers of racism?
So one thing they can do is, or a few things people can do to be supportive or allies or
Chantal,
communities.
I'm going to interrupt you for just a sec. Your
Yeah.
sound got really quiet. I don't know if you moved away.
Okay, is this better?
A bit better.
Okay, wait, let me bring this closer. I don't know what happened then. Okay, glad to know that you did it this. Is this better?
Let's just go with it. We can hear you. It might just be a tech thing.
Hold on, maybe if I put on the headphones, or should I not do that at this point?
It's okay.
Okay. Um, oh, I want to add something else about how I'm a revolutionary mother and touching on my business, right? So I created Love Nudes as a way to challenge what was out there. So my line is a skin tone intimates. I made it with women of color, for women of color, and I did this because yeah, there wasn't any undergarments that there wasn't any nude for women of color. And I just couldn't understand why that was a thing or why that wasn't a thing. So yeah, I challenged what was happening what is happening in the fashion industry, because nude is not only just beige, that's not only white skin. You're leaving out an array of skin tone colors that belong to people of different ethnicities. What about us? And that's a form of racism as well. Yeah, or yeah, systemic racism. So yeah, my business like stands for that, for like challenging the status quo and providing something that works for a different group of people that have specific needs that no one's really wasn't willing to address. But maybe now they will do it. It's starting to pop up, which is great.
But being someone who saw the group that needs the love, the radical love and the mothering, you went and created it. So thank
Yeah,
you.
out of love from me to my melanated sisters. It really is. And I know you also mentioned asked me about what advice I would have for allyship to different communities. And that would be supporting our businesses, right? Purchasing from us. And it's also about like the bigger picture is also being willing to be uncomfortable. We as a society in the West it seems like we're trained that our life should just be comfortable all day long, but it isn't. And there's no growth through comfort. Change only happens and improvements in our lives only happens when we are uncomfortable. And then a new behavior or a new habit is produced through that discomfort. So if you see somebody that's being mistreated because of who they are or whatever, they're being negatively spoken to, step up. Don't just turn the other cheek and say, well, it's not my business. And I'm not saying that it has to be a fight, but just speak up. When you speak up for others, we speak up for ourselves. And that's how we're all connected. The problems that we have with systemic racism and like just racism in general is because people are taught hate, and people see things that happen that shouldn't be happening. They don't say anything. So it allows the racism to continue. That's the problem. But, we have to be willing to be uncomfortable and show people that it's okay to be uncomfortable. The greater good is at stake. So Yeah, that's what would my advice would be.
Get uncomfortable. Get comfortable with getting uncomfortable.
Yeah, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you want growth and change and opportunities and possibilities, that only comes with change and doing something different.
Well said. Well, thank you very much, Chantel, for being here with us today. And for those who are watching, to learn more about Chantel and Love and Nudes and to support her business and to get your own, you can head to Chantel's website, which is loveandnudes.com, or follow her on Instagram at loveandnudes. So thank you, Chantel. Thank you for not accepting the status quo and creating intimates that reflect and celebrate diversity and diversely melanated people.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me on, and thank you for this initiative of Mothers Against Racism together. This is how we're connected. We can make the change, and it's in those small steps, in those small moments. It's not just having these discussions will help. Thank you for doing what you do.
Aw, thank you. Thank you for all the revolutionary mothering you do. The world needs these radical acts of love.
Yes, they do. Thank you.